What's that song by Bill Withers? Made popular by Bill Withers? You keep on using me until you use me up. Use me up? Maybe. It's either practice my morning Russian or recite a poem for you. Good, good. I thought so too. It's called The Art of Pressing Flowers. She was a student of the bloom, cataloging some decades' worth. Kept them in her mother's room, tomes, but pages pressing dearth. It was on an adventure one May, she had found a new field to play, ready with a new volume to splay, in hopes she might find it this day. Strolled and pointed as if to blame, knowing each by its proper name, wondering why she even came. This one, that one, they're the same. Then she caught the flickering flame, crimson petals almost ashamed. This wildflower she would tame, pluck it and keep it safe was her aim. How delicate was her hand of doom, uprooting it from its place of birth. Did it cry out as it was entombed, or when it was pulled from the earth? Yeah, much better than practicing my morning rush. Okay, I put it off. I've stayed my whatever execution there on my morning rushing. I wrote that a little while back. I knew I was being used. I was a willing participant. In the giving of my emotions to this woman. As this is what she fed on, others' emotions. She fed on that. And to this day, probably, if she's still alive, and I'm reasonably certain she is, she still does. That's how she's wired. And I was a willing participant. I gave and gave and gave more. To be needed, to be wanted. And so I gave. Not a cigarette lighter to remember me by, but my heart. Yes, my 50s have been a teachable moment. I remember, I'm not going and pooping down in a hole in the ground either. I'm not doing it. You see that on like these shows on, travel shows and, wild destinations or whatever they call it, or, the proverbial Timbuktu. And your latrine is, it's a hole in the ground. Go get busy. I was like, I ain't doing that. I ain't walking down. It looked like a cave almost. They had us tourists walking down it. It's like a cave, and it's like blood pressure. It was like a hole in the ground that they kind of dug out. Like, I'll hold it. I can hold it. That was at Alligator Point. I'm pretty sure that was at Alligator Point. To which my wife of the time, Cindy, turned to me and in an almost, well, in very much so, a Groucho-esque cadence, said, even to the eyebrows, I want to say. Now, it was dusk, as I recall, it was dusk, but I could still see her lovely face. Even to the eyebrows, she said, once upon learning of our location, where we were at, besides in the ground, that we were in fact at Alligator Point. I know I'm stretching this out. It's so good. She turns to me and got her little fingers. Remember? That's for you, Robin Williams. Got her little fingers going like she's holding a cigar. And I want to say the eyebrows are going up and down too. Easy. Easy. She says, now we just learned of our location, Alligator Point. She turns to me, she says, in that cadence, that demeanor, otherwise known as Crocodile Rock. Oh, just one of those moments. I hope that's one of the ones that, if I do the flashing before my life, before I go out, I hope to revisit that one momentarily. They say in times of extreme stress, your brain can stretch memories out and stretch moments out. You know what I'm talking about. It seemed like it was an eternity. You know what I'm talking about. All right. The slow motion as you're going off the road of the vehicle. Okay, maybe you haven't had one of those. Okay, I'm all right with that. So, Crocodile Rock. One for Cindy. Man, one for Cindy there. Whew. So yeah, I work on these watches. And a lot of the watches that I've worked on over the years are old. They're very old. You may think 1700s. Some, dare I even say, I've placed my hands on. I have worked on. I've been afforded the opportunity to work on. Manufactured even as far back as the 1600s. Yeah. I remember Tommy, one of my associates, always saying about me, he goes, that's what it is about you, man. I don't get it. You're just fearless. Because I'll go in on a watch and I don't care if it's the manufacturer's suggested retail on it is, $250,000. I don't care if I break it, I'll fix it. Let me just go in and get the damn watch clean and get it out to the client. Make them happy. And give me my money. I don't want your accolades. Give me my money. That's how you show me you respect me. For emphasis, the empty Coke can, the empty Gentleman's Club Coke can. So yeah, some of these watches, they're known as fusee by their escapement, the way they wind down, the watch winds down. Picture the swirly cone that comes up to a point, and you're riding the bicycle around the track that goes up to the point, right? You know what I'm talking about, until you get to the top of the mountain. And it gets smaller and smaller. The circle that you have to navigate on your bicycle gets smaller as you get to the top on a cone. Okay? All right. Now, around that cone, imagine not you on a bicycle, But imagine that cone being, that mountain being the size of a Rolo candy. Why not? A Rolo candy. I've touched on it. I've used those before as references. Literally the size of a Rolo candy. A bit smaller, actually. In all ways, in its shape. Now imagine, instead of you on a tiny little bicycle riding around the pathway to the top, imagine a little tiny bicycle chain wrapped around that, going up to the top. Spooling up, winding up the fusee. Okay? Now, I want you to imagine, I've already given you an indication of the size of things that we're talking about here. Now, I want you to imagine laying that bicycle chain out, and let's say this bicycle chain is 6 inches long. 6 inches long. Just for the sake of whatever. It's got a little tiny hook on each end. Okay? And it's a bicycle chain. And it's the size of a paper clip unfolded. Because I'm trying to give you scale for reference. Imagine unfolding a paper clip. Skrepka? Is that Russian? Well, if I'd practiced my morning Russian, Skrepka. Imagine unfolding a paper clip and just laying it out completely flat, like it never been folded, so, a bar. That's your scale. And it's actually not even as big as the bar because it's a bicycle chain. So it's not cylindrical. It's flat. It's little tiny figure eights. That's right. That are riveted one after the other. Staggered, offset. That's how you make the bicycle chain. With little eights in between and bigger eights on the outside. Get me? Okay. It is one of the hardest repairs that I have to make. Because I must select a steel that has a carbon content that is just right for me to work. Without me adding carbon, okay, let me not get stupid. I'm already stupid. And so the steel has to be of a certain nature, a certain quality, so that I can fashion a rivet should it break. Oh God. Man, when I overhaul one of those things and I wind it up for the first time, let me tell you, I'm winding it slowly to make sure it doesn't derail anywhere. And I'm holding my breath. Because it's incredible how strong this little tiny chain is. But, like everything else, yeah, man. Because things can happen when the chain breaks, when the watch is under load, when it's wound. Things can happen to the rest of the watch. The shock wave can be rather intense. That's what kills you in an explosion. It's not the fire or anything. It's the air pressure. It's the movement of molecules in the air. The shock wave that takes your liver and turns it into pate, let's say. Cellular disruption. Very nice. So, yeah, it's one of the hardest repairs that I have to make. Because I've got to sit there and make a rivet the size of the point of a needle, not the head. The point of the needle. Approximately that gauge roundness of steel, wire, rod. Yeah, somewhere around the point of it, as far as its size. And I've got to slip that through 3 holes. And then I have to beat it down and flare the heads on either side so that it can't back out. Without shattering this tiny piece of metal, without folding it over You see, when I rivet those heads, I have to keep its stalk, its shaft upright, or I'll kink the chain. And this piece of metal that I'm hammering on to make a mushroom head is perhaps a quarter the size of the head of that needle pin head. Perhaps. Rough, but then I've got to polish it, sand it, fashion. I've got to make it look pretty. I've got to finish it off. Now, I have a 300-watt lamp, which makes it like bright beach at the beach, plage, sunlight. I've got electricity at my beck and call, and every tool imaginable that I might need, electrically powered. Those chains that I just got through describing to you were made by children from the 1600s, early 1700s, late 1600s, when that design of watch was in vogue. With their eyes. Ain't no magnification here. Leonardo ain't, Galileo ain't taking that lens. There ain't no lenses anywhere. There's no glass. It's been, no. I mean, there might be some early onsets of it. If you want to challenge me and Google the lens and when it was ground and discovered, go ahead. But for the most part, no, because these are children in orphanages. Lenses, if any, would have been really expensive. And I'm told they were worked at it, chained to the bench, if you will, until they couldn't do it anymore, until it ruined their eyesight. That's what I'm told. Can you really go blind by masturbating? Now, you knew I couldn't leave that one on the table. Do you really go blind by masturbating? Well, I am going blind, but I'm almost 60, so okay. Why did I tell you the last story about the bicycle chain? I have no idea. Why have I told you any of these stories about me? I have no idea. Well, I have a couple ideas. But the last one with the bicycle chain, I guess I'm saying the moment you think that you got it going on, that you can do something or you're something wonderful, well, you're doing it in the 21st century. Let me know how that works for you in the 17th century. Peace.